This is the final part of the Creepypasta story. I've discovered a horrifying truth. Don't forget to comment, like, share and subscribe.
I awoke in a human body once again. Just like last time, I was thrust into a brand new life, already in progress. Now, however, I didn't have to fight away the new memories. They came, and they found their place, but they were foreign. Irrelevant. The truth had firmly burned itself into my real brain. The one sitting in the once vacant skull of a mass-produced drone, birthed by an entity humanity never had any hope of defeating. The woman who must have been my wife shifted and turned toward me in our bed. She asked me what was wrong, and I responded effortlessly to her in French, telling her I was fine. She hummed sleepily and turned back over, apparently content. Her name was Amelie. We had 2 children, Jean and Camille. I was a successful software engineer, and she was a school teacher. All things considered, this wouldn't be a bad life to live. I could forget everything I'd seen and just continue on in ignorance. Hell, at least she realized I existed, unlike the Swedish woman. I could start over like this. Only I couldn't. This life wasn't real. Nothing past January 4th of 2011 was real. I remembered it all, now. My last, or rather, my only true death. NASA and the ESA had co-discovered the anomaly in '02. An absolutely massive patch of dark space, slowly edging across the sky. It couldn't be seen by anything but the most powerful telescopes of the time, and it was nowhere near us. Or so we figured. This curiosity turned nightmarish, as one day the shadow completely vanished, only to be discovered around 3,000 light-years away from its original location. Not only that, but it had gotten closer. This continued for the next 8 years. The shadow would travel to some seemingly random place in space, only to disappear and reappear again. Each time, it drew nearer. Each new discovery raised more and more alarm among the scientists studying the phenomenon, and word eventually got out that something big was headed our way. We still couldn't see what it was, of course. Space is dark, and it was still outside our solar system, unlit by any of our stellar neighbors. Even if light had reached it, we simply didn't have the technology to properly image it. It wouldn't have mattered, anyway. All the world's combined arsenals, nuclear and otherwise, would have dented this thing at best. We knew it, too, when it finally appeared at the edge of the solar system, its vaguely circular body surrounded by pale, fleshy tendrils and jagged, rocky-looking flesh. If this thing wanted to kill us, it wouldn't have to try hard. Best estimates put the thing at just over 50,000 kilometers across. About 5 times planet Earth's diameter, give or take. Yet despite its immense size, it seemed to have no gravitational effect on the bodies around it. It passed right by Pluto without flinging the tiny non-planet into the depths of space, nor did it appear at all disturbed by Jupiter's immense pull. This tendril-covered pseudo-planet spat in the face of gravity and single-mindedly floated toward its destination, Earth. Panic the likes of which no disaster movie could depict soon ensued. The approaching entity had done nothing to prompt any feeling of dread. It hadn't fired any weapons, shown any aggression, or so much as nudge another planetary body on its way here. But humans are flighty creatures at the best of times. People acted like the end was already upon us, pouring into churches, murdering those who'd wronged them in some final acts of revenge, fleeing the resulting carnage and chaos, or committing suicide en masse. Those who died before our jailer's arrival were the lucky ones, at least if their brains were destroyed in the process. I don't think it can use the broken ones. I remember the day so vividly now. It's as if the newly activated drone's seizing had reawakened it in my mind. Some side effect of the hive mind that keeps them running, combined with the final desperate cries of the freshly implanted brain before its awareness was suppressed, its consciousness shunted into a new, artificial life. But I remember. The horrible tentacled thing rose over the horizon before it had even gotten close. In the days before its arrival, people had formed cults dedicated to sacrificing their fellow man in its name, so that they might be spared. I never really learned of their fate, but I don't imagine this thing cared for their paltry offerings. The thing's rocky surface lit up with tiny flashes of distant nuclear fire in the month leading up to its arrival, a sort of final act of rebellion in the face of complete annihilation. We all knew that, even if we managed to kill this thing, it was on a crash course with Earth. We'd be obliterated on impact. But humans are warlike at our cores, even if people refuse to admit it. There's something deeply primal about killing something that's trying to kill you, even if it won't necessarily mean your survival. Eventually, the nuclear bombardment stopped. The world governments, suddenly freed from their old hatreds and conflicts, decided to hold the rest of their arsenal on the odd chance that this thing meant to invade Earth, rather than simply crush it in some massive, unseen jaws. Well, they were half right. An invasion did happen. They were simply wrong in their assumption that their weapons would make any difference. The world darkened. Massive tendrils plunged into the ground, causing earthquakes the likes of which we'd never recorded. Ground defenses worldwide were rendered largely useless, and millions died in the resulting upheaval. I was one of the lucky ones, if you can call us that. Entire countries were reshaped overnight due to mass flooding and tectonic shifts, but those who survived were in for an even greater horror. The bug things. They descended through the tendrils, as if they were colossal, fleshy elevators, pouring out of hollow openings and charging heedlessly into the resisting human ranks. Unlike their floating master, the bugs could be killed. Hundreds of thousands were torn apart by gunfire, mortars, and aerial strikes. For months, the remaining holdouts fought the invaders, many opting for suicide to prevent capture, lest they be subject to whatever horrible things lie in wait up the fleshy tendrils and inside the colossal monstrosity above. As our numbers waned and the ceaseless flow of enemies trampled over their own dead, the few remaining aerial transports opted to deliver nuclear devices to the front lines. Once a position was overrun, a bomb would be detonated, absolutely devastating the enemy ranks. But for every dead bug, two more seemed to crawl from the tendrils. They gathered the charred, irradiated remains of friend and foe alike, and crawled up the tentacle tunnels from which they came. I met my end in the same manner as the human screaming in my head. I was captured, dosed with some kind of aerosol sedative, and stuffed into one of those resin pods. It was placed into one of the tendril walls, and slowly drawn into the upper levels of the creature in space. In my haze, I felt hopeful. Maybe if we could kill enough of these things, we could get inside and strike back. We could kill the Master. Maybe even survive in the apocalyptic hell it had brought upon us. I held onto that hope even as one of these goddamn bugs tore my body to shreds, and I slipped into the all-encompassing darkness that is true death. Then I woke up, a new man, and you know the rest. I can't tell you whether heaven or hell are real. I don't think any human alive that day will ever know, unless we do something to free ourselves from this madness. I've died, lived, and died again so many times since I learned the truth, and I have some theories about what exactly this thing is. This is more than just the musing of a madman. I believe the things I've learned may yet save us from this fate. For one thing, our home is gone. Forget all illusions about going back to Earth, because there simply isn't an Earth to go back to. Over time, I've dipped into the hive mind, listening to the echoes of thought riding on psychic waves that control the drones, and I've watched it tear apart our beloved planet more times than I probably should have. I've seen this thing's thoughts, its ideas, its dreams. I can't tell you why it's doing this. It doesn't think like we do. It doesn't communicate in words or syllables. It speaks in a language of ideas, of urges, of intent. It drives its drones to do things, and they do them. To be honest, I don't even think it's consciously aware of the state of humanity. In my push to understand this thing's mind and comprehend its thoughts, I haven't come across any impression that it does anything but maintain the illusion in which we all live. But therein lies the tiny sliver of hope I've managed to dredge from the depths of my broken mind. Something this big and this powerful expends a lot of energy, even its means of teleporting through space. A mechanism I still fail to understand. Can't bring it to its destination instantaneously. It coasts along in space in a dreamlike state to preserve what energy it has, using its drones to process organic material from the species it harvests. Yes, that's species, plural. We aren't alone up here. Not only did this thing take every living human from planet Earth, it also consumed all the plant and animal matter it could find, and every last scrap of mineral-rich earth it got its tendrils on. But more than that, there are other minds up here. Minds which were here before humans were taken. Minds from other worlds, trapped in similar illusions to ours. For now, they seem to be unreachable, but I believe that if we make enough humans aware, we can save them, too. That brings me to my plan, and stay with me on this. I'm alive right now, well, in the facsimile of life that you call planet Earth in 2019. I've written these notes in just about every language known to man, having lived through so many lives already and retained so many memories. For now, this plan is safe from the prying eyes of our jailer, as it's still asleep, scanning the cosmos with senses indescribable to human minds, in search of new life to absorb. Why it does this is still beyond my understanding. Maybe it's a living vacuum cleaner, sucking up the garbage life in the universe. God only knows we'd qualify. Maybe it's some sick and twisted means of cataloging life and preserving it before it's wiped out by some cataclysm. Or perhaps it's completely meaningless, like all life, and the universe is just cruel and unforgiving and horrifying in ways we could have never comprehended. I suppose we'll never know, but there is a way out. You have to die. Not only do you have to die, and gruesomely so, but you have to kill as many people as possible, brutally, violently. Take as many lives as you can, as often as you can, and spread the hell out of this message. I know it sounds insane, and I hope it is. God, I hope I've just done a metric ton of drugs and been delirious for the past decade. Anything would be preferable to this hell, but you have to believe it. Surely you've seen the signs already. Flickers of memories from past lives, sensations of déjà vu, and the sense that half the people around you are just facsimiles of human life, waiting for a soul, a mind, to be implanted. That's why we're stuck into already set lives after we die, because this thing has invented them for us already. There are empty shells of human beings, like my Swedish family countless lives ago, wandering this pseudo-Earth every day, just waiting for some fool to kick the bucket and fill a new role. And it's so seamless that it's almost perfect. Almost. I leave you with this plea. Do your part to save humanity. It's our only hope, not for survival, but an end to our imprisonment. A species-wide mercy killing to free us from the false reality in which our minds are held captive. And I know you're asking, why would I want to know all this? Is ignorance not bliss, if the alternative is just watching myself chop people up and feed them to a giant space monster all day? Well, maybe. But here's the juicy part. Recently, I've made a startling new discovery. I was testing the extent of my senses in my drone body, and I found that I was able to wiggle the end of my antennae. Just the end. Just a little. But like an arm you've slept funny on that's gone numb overnight, that little wiggle paves the way for greater motion. And if this thing stays asleep long enough for more of us to become aware, well, we could do a lot of damage, given the right circumstances. Live as a slave, or die free. We've made that choice as a species time and time again. Why not partake in one last rebellion? One final collective middle finger flipped at the universe that decided we weren't good enough? I'll see you out there, friends. Happy hunting.
This is the end of part 2. Hope that you enjoyed this creepypasta. Thanks for listening, folks. Please like, or dislike, share and subscribe. Also, don't forget to click the bell icon to receive notification when new videos are released. Leave a comment below if you have more to say, that just a like or dislike. While you are down there, leave a suggestion for what I should read in the future. Until next time, stay safe out there.